This morning, I'd like us to spend a few moments releasing the tensions and concern in our bodies and our minds to arrive at a cooler, clearer state of being. As I ring the peace bowl a second time, I would ask that you sit as comfortably as you can, relaxing your body. I'll ask you to breathe in and then slowly breathe out through your lips. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in again, breathe out slowly. As you do this, focus on your breath, the breathing in and the breathing out. When you do this, you can close your eyes if you wish. You don't have to. And then after a minute or so, or maybe 60 minutes, we won't know, I will ring the peace bowl again. At that time, we'll all take a deep breath, take a new look at this wonderful day, and then continue. Here we go. Okay, I think that went well. I was listening for snoring, but didn't hear any, so that was good. Good morning. I'm going to ring this peace bowl once again to affirm our collective hope for peace. Peace in our community, peace in our nation, peace in our world. We acknowledge that these lands we love are the ancestral lands of the Yavapai people. And now we'll have some music. Oh, so Lena says, I've got to introduce this guy here on the drums. Tom Burrows. I was going to announce him a few minutes later in the 17-minute list of announcements, but he might get lost. So Tom Burrows. And Tom is fresh from 2 nights, sold-out performances. What was it, Seligman and then Ash Creek? Or Ash Creek and then Seligman? I can't remember.
Good luck.
Good luck. Anyway, Tom is with us. Now I get the music. morning and welcome to Granite Peak Unitarian Universalist Congregation here in Prescott, Arizona. I'm Jack Wood, your worship associate for today. We extend a warm welcome to everybody. We're glad you're able to join us here and hope that you're all in good health. For those watching on Zoom, we wish you good health and welcome as well. This is the mission statement of our congregation. We are a compassionate spiritual community that celebrates diversity, nurtures the personal and spiritual growth of all ages, shares our gifts, promotes justice for all, and serves the world we live in. If you're joining us for the first time, please check out our website at prescottuu.org for more information about us. And if you're here in person, there will be time to introduce yourself shortly. I'm sure of that. And invite you to please stay after the service and chat with a member or two. There are refreshments in Davis Hall to enjoy together after the service, and we'll give you directions to Davis Hall later. Oh wait, that's this room. We thank our pianist, Lena Eubin, who always does such a wonderful job. And here, because I've got to read this because I spent time writing it, and we have a special musical guest. What's your name again? Tom Burrows. He returns on drums following his successes in Seligman and Ash Fork. Also thanks to Martin Brommel, our media tech, Brian Willison, who's hiding over in the back in the shadows. He's our Sunday management coordinator and all of our Sunday morning volunteers. And now please take a moment to make sure that your phones are silenced. And we have announcements, a few announcements. You can learn about the many things happening at Granite Peak in the Weekly Peak newsletter on our website, and we may have some printed copies of announcements at the welcome table. Sandra Palacios is our faith development coordinator, and she teaches ages 5 and older across the street in our faith development building. And she gave me a handwritten message this morning that I'm going to share with you. In these times of division in our society, we must remind ourselves of the 7 principles. The students of faith development will revisit each of the principles through discussion and will work through an individual booklet containing worksheets and activities on the 7 UU principles. So she's doing that today. And if we don't behave, we'll be doing it next week. Chris Hawthorne asked me to convey this message about Empty Bowls. Empty Bowls will take place on Sunday, September 14th. For those who don't know, it is Granite Peak and Puff's biggest community fundraiser of the year and raises money, lots of money, for our county's food banks. Empty Bowls is in need of more volunteers. I think Dixie told me that there's only 30% of the needed number of volunteers. That's part of the principles, people. Volunteer. There's a sign-up sheet in the back. And I was looking for it before, and somebody said, Jack, do you see that sign that says Empty Bowls, sign up here? I saw it. It's on the wall. So if you haven't signed up and you'd like to, please do so. It is a wonderful event. Chris says that we are especially in need of strong young bodies to help with truck loading and unloading. Remember, all volunteers get a commemorative t-shirt and a free serving of gourmet soup. And if you're not so young and not so strong and you insist on doing the truck unloading and loading, Yavapai Regional Medical Center is not that far away. Susan Cooper is on hand today to talk about immigration issues, and she'll be over at the table in back, right next to where you're going to sign up for Empty Bowls. Please reserve Wednesday, August 20th, from 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. to attend a meet and greet with our new minister, Michelle Legrave, and her family. Please bring an appetizer. Non-alcoholic beverages will be provided, and if you have any questions, please contact Bobby Bollinger for details. And now is the time to recognize visitors. And oh, here we go. Yes, I know, it's great. This is the first time I'm doing this, so bear with me. That's not on. Now it's on. So if you're here visiting Granite Peak for the first time, or if you came before and didn't identify yourself at that point, feel free today to just raise your hand. I'll bring the microphone over to you. You can tell us who you are, and you'll get one of these beautiful pens. Really, really special pens. And let's see, somebody's raising a hand for somebody else. Talk about volunteering other people, yes. I think that's it. That was good. I ran out of pens. Well, we have a special guest speaker today. What's her name? Oh, Dixie King, yes. She brought part of the audience. Dixie's a cultural anthropologist, diversity trainer, meditation teacher, and writer. Her California-based business, Transforming Local Communities, Inc., evaluates publicly funded programs to determine if people's lives are changing in positive ways as a result of the services they are getting. Dixie moved to Prescott Valley late in 2022 to be closer to her family, but she insists that she's not a California transplant. Her parents met and married in Prescott in 1954, and she was baptized in the church that is now the Prescott Center for the Arts, downtown on Marina Street. According to Dixie, she just moved home after a very long hiatus. Well, welcome home, Dixie. Dixie's also the co-chair of the Social Justice Ministry Council, along with Patrick Grady. Today, she'll be talking about the role of othering in our lives. We begin our service in the Unitarian Universalist tradition of lighting the chalice. Our chalice lighter this morning is Robert Shigog. Today we light the chalice with these words. We light this chalice, the symbol of our heritage, in gratitude for this beloved community. I think I might be missing a page. Hang on. Okay. We traded. Okay, let's see. Well, I did miss a page. I'm sorry. All right. No, we switched, but she may be, well, she's not going to read now.
I can if you want me
Okay, Dixie's going to read now. Thank you.
Okay. This is a reading from the civil rights activist John Lewis from his book, Walking with the Wind. When faced with a hateful, angry, aggressive, even despicable person, imagine that person. Actually visualize him or her as an infant, as a baby. If you can see this full-grown attacker who faces you as the pure, innocent child he or she once was, that we all once were, it is not hard to find compassion in your heart. It is not hard to find forgiveness. And this is the essence of the nonviolent way of life, the capacity to forgive. When you can truly understand and feel, even as a person is cursing you to your face, even as he's spitting on you or pushing a lit cigarette into your neck or beating you with a truncheon, if you can understand and feel, even in the midst of those critical and often physically painful moments, that your attacker is as much a victim as you are, that he is a victim of the forces that have shaped and fed his anger and fury, then you are well on your way to the nonviolent life. And it is a way of life. This is not simply a technique or a tactic or a strategy or a tool to be pulled out when needed. It is not something you turn on or off like a faucet. This sense of love, this sense of peace, the capacity for compassion is something you carry inside yourself every waking minute of the day. It shapes your response to a curt cashier in the grocery store or to a driver cutting you off in traffic, just as surely as it keeps you from striking back at a state trooper who might be kicking you in the ribs because you dared to march and protest against an oppressive government. If you want to create an open society, your means of doing so must be consistent with the society you want to create. Means and ends are absolutely inseparable.
Thank you very much. Okay. I realized that I didn't miss a page. All the numbered pages are here. What I did was, I forgot that my reading was not my reading. It's a poem called What Can a Poem Do? And I think we have the poet, Darius Doherty, with us today, at least in audio form, to read the poem to you.
A poem cannot save a life, cannot Luke Cage your skin, fend off a dark alley attack, cannot make you less woman, or less poor, or less black, and thus treated equally. A poem cannot stop a bullet, stop a bomb, stop terror on your doorstep. Your step, even with poem in hand, could be your last. A blast would turn the paper poem is written on into dust, particles simile up in smoke, metaphors, just molecules forgotten. A poem cannot turn back time's hand, erase mistakes made, or cut, copy, paste memories. A poem cannot delete history's horrors. But a poem can love, like hold you and scold you at the same time. A poem can rip away the untruths that have cocooned us. A poem can make you butterfly, not fly. You already fly, but a poem can make you float. No need to watch your step. Quiet is kept. A poem can introduce you to yourself, help you discover those hidden, forbidden parts. A poem be like a mirror sometimes, help you see the crust in your eyes and the plink. And on second thought, a poem can save a life. Like wise words granddaddy whispered, like the layer of truth just below the scriptures. A poem cannot stop a bullet, but can swallow the hate and spit back a sonnet. That sonic booms a room till quotes float like balloons. Goblins and goons soon just nod their heads and snap their fingers to what's written or said. Isn't it ironic? They say the pen is mightier than the sword, but there were few writers on my block, mostly fighters on my block, dropouts that pulled all-nighters on my block. They blue and red lighters on my block, then indicters on my block. What if there were more writers on my block? On your block. Neri Barrio and Burrow, Conclave and Commonwealth, Courtroom and Capitol Hill? What if they all spilled ink on pages, allowed the inner workings of their hearts to scribble a poem or two? I wonder where we'd be if the masses knew just what a poem can do.
I like that poem. Thank you, Darius, for allowing us to use that today. And now I realize that I've missed a couple announcements. We're going to head back to that for a moment. And Maura is going to come up. You'll recognize her with the green pom-poms. Here you go.
Gosh, I wouldn't wear these if it wasn't so important. This means green bag. And I'm one of the people that kind of got the green bag program going and volunteers in the pantry. And first of all, thank you all of you who are members of the green bag. We just took in an incredible amount of food and canned goods and products that we've been able to distribute through the pantry, and we have enough to get us through until the next time when we receive Bounty, which will be in October. But we are continuing the every 2 months bringing in our green bags from our community. So the next green bag delivery day is Sunday, this next Sunday, the 3rd of August. And we're going to ask you all to bring your green bags to the service if you come that day. And we will check you off and we'll give you a new green bag that will be due in October. And if you don't plan to come next Sunday to the service, please sometime this week feel free to bring your bag to the office during office hours, or on Friday from 10 till 1. We're open in the pantry, at the pantry across the street. If none of those things work for you, give one of us a call, myself or Chris or Catherine or Jack, and we can make arrangements with you to pick it up. We can meet you somewhere, come to your house, whatever it takes. So again, this coming Sunday, hope to see you all with your green bags, and thank you very, very much.
Thank you. And we have another speaker, too, giving us a message, Robert Shagog.
Several years ago, a member of this congregation helped to organize, and this congregation supported CCJ. This morning, I received an email that they are in dire straits. You all know about the embezzlement of funds, and because of that incident, they have lost grants that help support them. And so they are looking at $250,000 in lost revenue and $300,000 in lost grants. And so they are really, really in need of our help. So since they started from us, Paul Mitchell, okay, we need to step up and support them as best you can. Thank you.
And what does CCJ mean?
Actually, CCJ was the Coalition of Christians and Jews back in the 60s, well, those of us who can remember that. And then Paul Mitchell and the other people here did the Coalition of Compassion and Justice. So they used the same initials.
You have a question?
I want to emphasize Diane Iverson. She also helped.
Yes, yes. So it's part of our seeding. This congregation sends out lots of seeds into the community, and that is one of our strong seeds and one of our strong flowers out there. So I will get my email to the office, and hopefully they can put it in the weekly peak.
Very good. Thank you. I'm sort of a tax guy. I help people with their tax returns. And one of the things that the state of Arizona does is they have a special program where you can give donations to specific organizations that are on their list that help needy people in Arizona. And CCJ is one of those programs, Coalition for Compassion and Justice. And you can donate, I believe this year, it's up to $495 and take a dollar-for-dollar reduction, a credit against your Arizona tax. So if you feel the need to give and you want to give some money through that program, the Arizona Tax Credit Program, you can give the money and then you'll get a rebate or a reduction on your tax return next year. So keep that in mind too. It's a very worthwhile organization, and everybody was stunned when they found out that the bookkeeper had embezzled all that much money and had done it from another organization too. So, all right, time to sing, folks. The Teal Hymnal, number 1053, How Could Anyone? The covenant of our congregation. Is this in the order of service? Okay. It's in the order of service. Let's read it together. Love is a doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community. Thus do we covenant together. I think we're up to the offertory phase of our service this morning. As we prepare to take the offering this morning, let us embrace the feeling of connection and community that we have when we gather here each week. Let us remember that this congregation and its programs are supported by our generosity. We also give back to the greater community through our Seeds of Support program. This month's recipient is the Hungry Kids Project. And I can't believe this number, but it says that they served 110,000 meals each year to homeless students in the Chino Valley School District. So if you want to give specifically to Hungry Kids and you have a check, just make it payable to Granite Peak and then put Hungry Kids in the memo. If you want to give cash, half the cash that's collected will go towards Hungry Kids. And I think that we have some music. We acknowledge the generosity of spirit expressed through these offerings. What is given in love is received in gratitude. Blessed be. We come to the joys and concerns section of our program. I spent a little bit of time this week reading a book by Thich Nhat Hanh, a Vietnamese monk who lived from 1926 through 2022. He's, I guess, considered the father of engaged Buddhism. And he's got a bunch of little paper books, how to relax, how to breathe, how to walk, how to speak, and how to listen was the one that I focused on this week. And in there he talks about compassion. Compassion is the intention and the capacity to relieve and transform suffering. Suffering in ourselves, sufferings in the other person, and in the whole world. When we recognize the suffering in ourselves, we can recognize and embrace the suffering in people around us. When we get in touch with our own suffering and start to understand it, the energy of compassion begins to arise. It begins to heal us, to heal the other person, to heal the world. Our beloved community is the heart of Granite Peak Unitarian Universalist congregation. Ours is a community of compassion. As we experience a time of meditation and music, we will take a few moments to silently acknowledge the joys and concerns in our hearts and our minds. If there is an event which moves you to joy or concern, hope or gratitude, I invite you to come forward silently and drop a pebble from these dishes into our communal water as an affirmation of our connection to one another. May our joys and concerns, surrounded by the healing communal water of our beloved community, be acknowledged here today. So may it be. In the days ahead, recall your feelings during today's joys and concerns, and keep some room in your heart for the stirrings of compassion. And in the gray hymnal, we have Spirit of Life, which I think is written in the order, so this is...
Good to see you all this morning. I was in Sprouts not long ago looking over the produce. The woman standing next to me was looking through the Honeycrisp apples, one of my favorites, but they didn't look so good. I told her about Cosmic Crisps and Envies as possible alternatives. We got into a great little discussion about the varieties of apples that make our hearts sing. We laughed and wished each other a good day, and she moved toward the checkout line. I looked after her, and across the back of her t-shirt in big, bold letters, it proclaimed, "Proud MAGA Mom." After a stunned moment, I caught myself tightening up. Here's the sad truth. Had I seen that t-shirt first, I would have never spoken to that woman. I would never have smiled at her. I would never have seen who and what she is, a fellow human being with whom I do have some common values, even if it's just a shared love of apples. It got me thinking about all the ways that I engage in and justify othering. According to the Cambridge Dictionary, othering is, quote, the act of treating someone as though they are not part of the group and are different in some way, magnifying the differences between those people and us, their children and our children, end quote. The definition under Merriam-Webster is, quote, one considered by members of a dominant group as alien, exotic, threatening, or inferior as because of different racial, sexual, or cultural characteristics, end quote. How many times in my life have I looked at someone and judged, patronized, or even unconsciously thought myself just a little bit superior? A few years ago, as part of a field project in writing and social justice, I worked with a handful of 16 and 17-year-old gang members after they were released from incarceration. They were in a probation school, their last chance to turn things around before they hit the adult criminal justice system. Their convictions included assault, attempted murder, rape, drug dealing, and grand theft auto. I could read their minds. Here she is, this old white woman, thinking she has anything to tell us, anything to give us. And they were right. I had no clue and a lot of judgment. But we found some common ground through creative writing. And they wrote poetry, reflections, rap. One young man wept as he read the requiem for his best friend who died in his arms of a gunshot wound. I looked at these kids, some so bright, so talented, so engaging, and I could see their potential. Just what was contributing to the poor choices they were making? Well, there was Joanna. At 5 years old, I was begging my mother to buy the bruised tomatoes at the fruit stand so they wouldn't feel rejected. At 5, Joanna was raped by her mother's boyfriend. and was already learning to sublimate terror into numbness and rage into self-mutilation. We both had mothers who battled alcoholism. We could relate to each other in that regard. But even at her most compromised, my mother protected me. Joanna's did not. How do I judge Joanna's decisions or feel there's any equivalency in the way we make decisions given the culture of our respective upbringings? I chose not to have children. How do I judge Joanna's choice to get pregnant with her second child at 16, to have another someone to love and someone who will unconditionally love her, to have some illusion of control in her life, some sense of purpose and agency? What is it you want out of life? I asked Jesus. To be happy. What does that look like? To have money. I couldn't tell Jesus that having money wouldn't make him happy. He wouldn't have believed me. According to his probation officer, Jesus had 2 pair of jeans to his name. His PO bought him his shoes. He had 8 younger brothers and sisters. He had a girlfriend who was pregnant. He was 17 and functionally illiterate. English was not his first language. Violence was his currency, the only way he knew how to protect what little he had. At some point in getting to know these kids, I had to ask myself, who was I to judge the drug use and the violence? Who was I to say that I was even doing the right thing in trying to take away the only agency they had in the world? None of these kids expected to live past 25. It's a powerful thing to look at death and shrug. Once you surrender hope, once you're willing to die and want to make that death somehow count, at least among your peers, everything else is superfluous. In that one moment of ceding your life, you have agency, you have power, and that's true even if you have nothing else. I was white, educated, and middle class. Life still meant something to me. I was weak by their playbook. These kids taught me about my own powerlessness, my illusions, my ego to think I could change their life trajectories. They taught me that elusive other that people of my class are so afraid of. Those people who want what I have. Those people who have to be managed and controlled by the criminal justice system or by vigilante members of the National Rifle Association or by ICE or by a social service system that wants to help and mostly doesn't. Those kids taught me about the political necessity of changing their world so they don't take over and change mine. For a lot of people who look like me, though maybe without as much education and opportunity as I have had, this is the heart of their fear, that those people will take over and destroy their way of life, limit their own tiny slice of the American pie, threaten the well-being of them and their families. And as human beings, that's what we do when we become afraid. We turn those human beings into the other, those people who want to take my job, those people being supported by my taxes, those people who are violent criminals, even when they aren't, and who threaten my way of life, even when they don't. And hand in hand with othering is dehumanization. That is, quote, the process, practice, or act of denying full humanity in others, perceiving individuals or groups as lacking essential human qualities, such as secondary emotions and mental capacities, thereby placing them outside the bounds of moral concern. End quote. Where else am I guilty of othering, of dehumanizing? I think about people who are houseless. The first assumptions I tend to make about people living on the street usually circle around drug addiction and mental illness, even though I know that more and more families and more seniors are ending up houseless for reasons often well beyond their control. My feelings about unhoused people are a crucible of reluctant pity, guilty anger, exhausted discouragement, and desperate avoidance. If I'm honest, I deal with this most of the time by not looking. This despite my experience with Gabriel. Gabriel was a young man sitting in front of the entrance of a Vons supermarket in my hometown. I walked right past him at first, not making eye contact, but something compelled me to walk back across the parking lot to talk to him. His head was down, displaying a thick thatch of poorly cut black hair. He appeared reasonably clean in torn jeans and a nylon jacket, much too light for the December weather. I asked him for his story. Gabriel was 27 years old. He pulled up his pant leg and showed me the skin thickly scarred in uneven ridges. He had been working under the table in construction and fell off a roof. He had to have 2 surgeries and some skin grafts. He couldn't work and lost everything, everything being the wreck of a car that he had been living out of and that was impounded for being parked illegally. He had been applying for work at fast food places but didn't have a phone, so he couldn't be reached, and because he was injured, no one wanted to hire him. It turns out that you can stay nights at the rescue mission for 45 days. Then you have to leave for 15 days before you're eligible to come back. He told me he was on his 15 days out with 4 days to go. He would help the maintenance crew at the shopping center at night, and they'd give him a few dollars. There was a building nearby with an elevator that wasn't locked. After work, he'd get in the elevator and stop it between floors. There was a light inside, and he could read and keep relatively warm at night in the freezing weather. He loved to read. I befriended Gabriel for a period of time and found some work for him, but that's another story, and it's one without a happy ending, unfortunately. Too many demons, a friend of mine who hired him told me. The point here is that Gabriel taught me, at least temporarily, to look beyond the label. That doesn't mean I make eye contact with every houseless person I meet. I don't. And when I actively avoid doing so, I am othering. 2 years ago, I ran a series of focus groups with kids in juvenile detention. They had probation officers they loved and probation officers they hated. When asked about the ones they loved, what made those POs different, the answer was almost always the same and almost always the same words. They see me. They don't see a number, they don't see a gangbanger, they don't see someone they have to manage, control, and verbally beat down. They see me. What does that look like, I asked. They say hello. They see when I'm down or pissed off or sad and ask about it. They smile at me. We all want to be seen, seen as who and what we truly are, not as someone's stereotype, not as a statistic, but as a valuable, worthy, lovable, and loving human being, the antithesis of othering. We are all capable of othering, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, atheist, humanist, Unitarian. We are all capable of othering and dehumanizing. And in the United States, it's become a way of life. James Baldwin, the African-American writer and philosopher, wrote, "I imagine one of the reasons people cling to their hates so stubbornly is because they sense once hate is gone, they will be forced to deal with pain." A day or two after the flooding in Texas in July, a Kerr County commissioner was quoted in an interview as saying he didn't regret his vote rejecting money for an emergency response system because it would mean raising taxes. A few years before, one of his fellow commissioners rejected a system because it, quote, would only serve those crazy rich people from Houston who build right on the river. Really? And the same day, a pediatrician in Houston wrote in Facebook, "May all visitors, children, non-MAGA voters, and pets be safe and dry. Kerr County MAGA voted to gut FEMA. They deny climate change. May they get what they voted for. Bless their hearts." Really? James Baldwin also wrote, "There are so many ways of being despicable, it quite makes one's head spin, but the way to be really despicable is to be contemptuous of other people's pain." I can assure you no one voted to have their 8-year-old daughter die in a flood. The problem with righteous indignation and rage over injustice is that if we do not direct it carefully and appropriately, we become what we most hate. I quote again John Lewis from the earlier reading. "If you want to create an open society, your means of doing so must be consistent with the society you want to create. Means and ends are absolutely inseparable." It doesn't mean we don't have rage. Gandhi called himself the angriest person in the world, but he learned how to direct his rage. When injustice takes place, we must fight back, and we must find ways to do it nonviolently, with compassion and with loving kindness. We must engage in peaceful protest. We must write letters and sign petitions. We must run for office, and we must vote. And above all, we must remember that the real enemy, the most despicable enemy, is not our fellow Americans. It's not even our current administration. The most despicable enemy is the enemy within. It's the part of us that looks to blame. It's the part of us that refuses eye contact with those we fear or who make us uncomfortable. It's the part of us that relishes our righteous indignation. It's the part of us that takes pleasure in other people's pain. It's the part of us that believes in our moral superiority. It's the part of us that acts not in accordance with our values, but in accordance with our frustration and our outrage. It's the part of us that leads us to behave in the very ways that we most hate in others. Our challenge is to meet injustice and hold the line, and at the same time find within ourselves compassion, compassion for self and compassion for others, including those who have none for us. To create the society we envision by living it to the best of our ability every day. I wish I could say I do this. Maybe 5% of the time I do so, maybe 3%. But I know it's the only possible path to what we envision, which is Dr. Martin Luther King's beloved community. Extreme, you might say. Well, King wrote from Birmingham jail regarding the charge of extremism from his fellow clergy, quote, "But as I continued to think about the matter, I gradually gained a measure of satisfaction from that label. Was not Jesus an extremist for love? Love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them who despitefully use you and persecute you? Was not Amos an extremist for justice? Let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. Was not Paul an extremist for the Christian gospel? I bear in my body the marks of the Lord Jesus. Was not Martin Luther an extremist? Here I stand, I cannot do otherwise, so help me God. And John Bunyan, I will stay in jail to the end of my days before I make a butchery of my conscience. And Abraham Lincoln, this nation cannot survive half slave and half free. And Thomas Jefferson, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. So the question is not whether we will be extremists, but what kind of extremists we will be. Will we be extremists for hate or for love? Will we be extremists for the preservation of injustice or the extension of justice? Perhaps the South, the nation, and the world are in dire need of creative extremists, end quote. Let us be creative extremists. I will end with a brief story. 2 of my nieces have birthdays in May, and they decided to join me at a protest in Prescott Valley to celebrate. We left the protest a bit early. Yeah, we have odd ways of celebrating. But we left a little early to have lunch together before they had to leave. And as we were walking away, we passed a lone Trump supporter sitting in his chair several yards to the west of the anti-Trump protesters. He was at least my age, maybe older. He had his signs and an American flag, and he was entirely alone. I remember thinking that took a lot of courage. I wouldn't be very comfortable had our roles been reversed. I decided spur of the moment to do something I do too seldom. I decided to practice what I preach and be an extremist for loving kindness. I walked up to the man who looked at me like he expected me to scream or spit at him. I smiled and said, I just want you to know that now and always, I fully respect and support your right to demonstrate peacefully for what you believe in. And I thank you for respecting my right to do so in turn today. Have a good day, sir. In that moment, I really meant what I said. I would have died on the ramparts for his right to disagree with me because that is what makes America great. He mumbled something back and turned away, but not before I saw tears in his eyes. For one brief moment, I saw him, and for one brief moment, he may have seen me. The path of nonviolent resistance, of loving kindness, of compassion does not defend injustice. It does not defend the indefensible, but it also doesn't forget that those we oppose are not so different than we are. They are, in John Lewis's words, equally victims of forces that have shaped and fed their anger and their fury. The path of loving kindness does not act out of fear or out of rage. It acts out of conviction. It holds the line. It is complicated. It is hard, and it demands so very much of us. But in the end, if we let it shape and define us, it's the only thing that can never be taken away from us. It is what makes us human. It is what makes us one. I see you.
Thank you very much, Dixie. That was very moving. We have a hymn, number 1031 in the Teal Hymnal, Filled with Loving Kindness. With loving kindness, Closing words. Thich Nhat Hanh writes about listening to understand. If you listen with mindfulness to someone with whom you have a deep conflict, you will recognize that they have suffered in almost the same way as you. As you listen, you will see that they have the same fear, anger, and suspicion, and you begin to see them as a human being. When you see them as a human being who is suffering, the desire to punish them dissolves. You begin to look at them with the eyes of compassion. It's time to extinguish our chalice. Robert's going to help with that. With the extinguishing of our chalice, our worship time has ended, and now our service begins. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you very much for being here today. Be kind.